She had hair like a horse hair covered in hair. No, it was like thin black hair.
May he never, ever rest in peace. Chicken fried.
Like it's like we're on a game show.
Yeah.
So, I just do my intro like this and pretend I'm like Bob. Was it Bob Barker?
Yeah, Price is
Price is
wrong,
Right.
Bob. Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
price is wrong, bitch. Except he has like that really skinny mic that always kind of creeped me out as a kid.
Yeah, it was
I don't know
real.
why.
Wasn't it real thin? Like, was it
Yes,
real long and thin, like a Men in Black zapper, like, but really long? Like, it just really
yes.
narrow mic. Yeah.
That's one of those things from my like your childhood that like creep you out and you don't know why.
Hmm.
Like that skinny
Yeah.
mic.
There was always a weird, um, like a subtle weird energy in The Price is Right. Like, maybe it's just because that was the show you watched whenever you were homesick, and
Mm.
maybe that gave you a weird feeling, be it like you were faking being sick and you were watching The Price is Right. I don't know, but there's always something weird about The Price is Right.
And you feel guilty, so every time you watch Price is Right, it's like, damn, I feel guilty. Or you're associating it with like having a stomach flu. So every time you watch it, you're
Mm,
like, something feels off. I shouldn't be watching this
yeah.
right now.
It was always Price is Right, and God, soap operas were so heavy back then. Like, every channel had soap operas. Guiding Light,
Yeah.
General Hospital, As the World Turns. I can still hear it.
Passions. Like you can hear the theme songs, like the ding, 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 ding. What was that,
Uh-huh.
Young and the Restless? Or no.
Do no no
I
no
don't
no.
from movies to video games. Welcome to Marie plays it all. It's awkward, especially when you're holding a mic like this. Cause I feel like I'm gonna
Yeah, I
be like, and
feel
have your pets spayed or neutered.
yeah, yeah.
The episode today, I am kind of branding these episodes as what I say, Kevin, side quests.
Side quests. Mhm.
Yeah, because it's not like my typical like video game playing with me or my son, and it's not like the movie thing that I do with Daniel or the thing I do with my brother. This is something different. This is gonna be side quests. This is gonna be replays it all side quests, and
Mhm.
it's for whatever. It's for anything. We can talk about whatever we want and do
We
whatever
could
we want.
explore, we could dig deep. I love it.
Okay.
And it fits
Okay,
you
you know
too.
what?
Like, the whole gaming thing, it works. I
Well,
like it.
I'm the one who plays the video games. You're like, yeah, we can explore and we can. It's like,
I play video games. I
Chris,
play like
you're
the little golf game on my iPhone.
what are the side quests like on that?
I haven't dug deep enough to get there, but I do play games
Mm.
sometimes, but just iPhone games. I'm not a gamer like you, Marie. I used to be.
Well, what did you play when you were younger?
Ooh, so um, I still have vivid memories of this game. Pokemon Snap was my game growing up. Just like photography. Do you know that game? Do you remember that game? Ever played that game?
No,
Ever heard of it?
I did
Yeah,
not.
so
I
it's
did not
just
play it.
you're a photographer and you score points by taking
Mm.
the best pictures. And so at the end of each level, you would go through your camera roll and you would select the best picture of each Pokemon and submit it. And someone would judge you, the computer would judge you, and it was just super fun, like super fun. Played GoldenEye, James Bond a good
Yeah,
bit.
that's a
I
classic.
played so much fun. Remember playing that middle school, played Halo all the time.
Mm.
Like Halo,
Okay.
that was my high school glory days where we would just go to a friend's house, we would drink and just play Halo all night. So much fun. Call of Duty, played that for a little
Hmm.
while, and then I kind of quit after Call of Duty. It's probably a good thing because I'm the type of gamer that would get so mad and like slam my controller and and
Yeah.
break them like an
Yeah.
idiot. So it was costing me. So I think I had to let it go.
What would the computer judge you on? Like, what would make a good Pokemon Snap picture? Like, what would the
Symmetry,
basis be?
composition, like
Oh,
how well lit and framed the Pokemon is, like how perfect you could see it. It was really
so it was
cool.
legit.
It was really fun. I love that game. Mhm.
Screw photography school. Just like you play Pokemon Snap.
That's
Where's your
probably
portfolio
what
of your
that's
Pokemon
pr-
Snap?
that's probably what got me addicted to photography. Honestly, I played it all the time, and then talking about found footage today, I also like my dad had this camcorder that had like the cassette tape where it would pop out from the side of the camcorder and you put the cassette tape in.
Hmm.
And I was just obsessed with making movies. I made so many ghost face movies and like little mini horror movies that were trash. They were so bad, but Man, that was fun. I did it all the time. They're around here somewhere. I need to see if I can find them. Super embarrassing, but it was fun.
Okay, first off, let me just say that's how you got into photography, and let me say how I know you.
Mm.
I met Kevin on Instagram. I started following his page, watched horror films, and the photography and like the filming locations, videos and everything you go to. I was like, damn, this is good stuff. Cause I've always been interested in photography. I don't like do it. I just like for fun, whatever sometimes. But that's what really got me intrigued with your page. And now I know I have Pokemon Snap to thank for that.
It was well, thank you, first of all. And thank you for having me on your show. This is awesome. Yeah, Pokemon Snap, I think it was on Nintendo 64. So I don't know if it's still available or if they were able to adapt it to other game consoles. But fuck, man, that game was awesome. So much fun. I'd get it right now and play it today if I could find it. Seriously.
Damn, I have a 64. I should try to find that game.
Really? Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to look it up. I'll look it up.
So you said that we're talking about found footage today. Yes, we are. Okay, so we're talking about found footage, specifically horror movies today. A
Oh yeah.
very great passion of mine, and not so much a passion for Kevin, even though he is passionate about it. I bug him all the time because he's like, "Oh, this movie's good. This movie's good." I'm like, "You say you don't like found footage movies, yet you like this, and you watching this." It's like, what the heck, man? But I specifically, not just want Kevin on here because he's like such a wonderful person and good friend, but because I want to have a little bit of a debate because he's not fully into found footage the way I am. And I
Mm.
just want to talk to somebody. I don't want to talk to somebody who just loves it like me. Because this would be like us, like, oh my God, yeah. And like, no, we want to talk a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah,
about it. We want to get
yeah.
into it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we've never like I mean, this has been a long time coming because we've had like little mini discussions of found footage, and then I'm like, I like found footage. I don't love found footage, and then I'll be watching a found footage movie, and Marie will catch me and give me shit. She's like, "Oh, you don't like found footage. You're watching found footage all the time." We really haven't taken a deep dive into found footage per se, or why Marie loves it so much and why I like it, don't love it, and so it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to talk about.
We're gonna dig deep.
Yeah,
That's what
we're gonna
that's our
explore.
saying. That's our saying for today. We're gonna explore and dig deep.
Yeah.
I have my little notes here. You said something, but I'm gonna just start by saying why I like found footage movies so much, or why I think I do, why I'm so drawn to them. And part of
Mhm,
it has to do with what you just said about how you would make little movies and stuff with your dad's video camera. And like,
mhm.
find that maybe that's what kind of draws you to found footage sometimes because you had that passion for like being behind the camera and like making little movies and stuff.
I actually didn't even think about that until last night when I was kind of going over the overview of today's episode. I'm like, why do I not love found footage and why do I love parts of found footage and really enjoy it? I was like, shit, because I did that when I was a kid. Like those were my summers, getting together with family or friends and just filming crazy stuff and trying to figure out how to edit it and make it look not terrible. And then if I needed like a crazy explosion or like a T-Rex attack, I would just film the TV and cut it between um, our actual found footage chase scene or whatever and kind of like try to blend it into some weird Frankenstein cassette tape. And so I just have really fond memories of that growing up. Man, I really wish I could find those tapes. There's some crazy ghost face ones where we were just breaking our parents' doors, like just because Ghostface would always get slammed into a door, we would just slam ourselves into these doors. And so, man, but yeah, so I think that is a big part of why found footage resonates with me for sure. For
First
sure.
things first, you gotta find those tapes. You
Yeah.
gotta find those tapes. You have to somehow, with whatever technology will allow, upload them somehow, or like
God,
record them on
I
your screen.
probably
I mean,
man, I went through so many different looks back then. I had an earring. I had
oh
like
no,
bleached blonde hair, spiky hair, red
not an
hair.
earring. You rebel.
God, I know. I was such a dog back then.
All right. Well, we gotta see these. Well, you know what? Because I was gonna say, like, I think one of the reasons why I love them so much is because I didn't make as many movies as you did. But I just remember whenever that camera came out, like one of those shoulder mounted cassette,
Yeah.
like VHS, right? Like one of those big, huge ones. My dad would bring it out, and I would be like, moths to a flame, like, can I film? Can I record? Can I record? Like I was always like, I need to do it. And I would like record, and then I'd
Mhm.
record myself doing stuff. And that was always so appealing. And I also think that maybe part of me likes found footage movies because it's like POV. And that's what a lot of video games I've played are. Like
That's
first
a good point.
person POV, adventuring and digging deep, and I'm like, "This is like I'm watching a video game in a way," you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember growing up and seeing those big ass shoulder cameras or just like
Yeah.
like the big lunchbox handheld cameras, and I was just mesmerized by them. Like I don't know how old I was when I like first saw them. I was young, man. I was probably like 6, 7. I
Mm.
feel like everybody did that growing up. Like all the families had those big camcorders recording birthdays and get-togethers, and so man, I was just super drawn to a camera at a young age. But that makes sense with like the video game POV stuff. Never thought about that.
Okay, here's another thing that I asked Kevin last night. I was like, "How many found footage movies do you think you've seen?" And so we decided we would like try to tally up how many we've seen. And I'm curious what
Yeah.
your number was.
It's not 60 or over 60 like yours is. So I probably got between like, I'm probably forgetting a few, between 25 and probably 40 I've seen.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
probably forgetting a handful. I'm including TV shows as well, like Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, Finding Bigfoot. Those are ones that I like a lot, and those are found footage. Those are found footage. Well,
No, those
I
are
guess they're not.
documentary,
You're right. Shit, but I guess I got it mixed up because they are not professional cameras. They're just people
and they're
walking
fake.
around. I don't know.
Probably. Probably.
I don't
Um,
know. I love them, but they're yeah, probably.
Okay, so I tallied up all of mine, I think all of mine, and I have 61 that I can remember when I went
Jesus.
through the list. And see, this is why when I do my episodes late to the game with Daniel, he's like, "You haven't seen any movies." And I'm like, "Yeah, I have.
Got your head
Too
buried
busy
in the
watching that."
found footage beach. Yeah.
I still wouldn't call myself like a found footage, like what do they call those people? Like a aficionado or whatever you pronounce that word.
Guru aficionado. I would call you that. I think well, out of our group that we've kind of just our group that we have on Instagram and all of our podcast friends, our horror friends, I think you are definitely the leader of the found footage genre. For sure.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, out
Own
of
it.
that, I mean, there's
Yeah.
okay, fine. Where's my crown? Make me the found footage queen. Going through that list though, there's a lot that I haven't seen that are like really popular ones.
Ooh.
And yeah, like really apparently good ones. And it's so funny because if you look online, say I'm about to watch like a found footage horror movie, and it's like you look online for reviews just to see like what the reviews are. It's like
Ooh,
always
that's such
mid
a
grade.
dangerous game to play. Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I was looking at some found footage reviews on Letterboxd last night, and all of them are like from 0.5 stars to like 3.5, and they're like big
Mm,
skyscrapers. None of them are like, this is a 4, a solid 4. This is a 5. This is a 2. Everything was like, ooh, man, this is all over the place. Specifically with the marked ones and Lake
mm,
Mungo, which is the 2 I watched last night.
yeah. Let me just ask you that right now. How did you feel about both of those movies?
Okay, I'll start with the one I watched first, which is the one you recommended, which is Paranormal Activity, the marked ones. And I don't know how many Paranormal Activity movies I've seen. I know I've seen the first, love the first, love that
Mhm.
movie. I remember parts of the second and maybe the third. I haven't seen The Ghost Dimension
Don't.
and I haven't
Terrible.
seen Next of Kin. But, this one, I think I reviewed it as Chronicle, like the movie Chronicle, but spooky. Like that's what it felt like to me. It was very lighthearted. It had moments of scares and tension, but it was a lot of jump scares. Like shit, man. The one that got me was whenever they go down into and spoilers by the way, they go down into the neighbor's like cellar, the basement, and there's these like drapes, like these big plastic drapes everywhere, and you see this silhouette. I guess it's the demon. I don't know, or whatever it is down there, and it's kind of like walking, pacing back and forth. All of a sudden, it just lunges towards the camera, and I went, "Oh God!" It scared me to death. So that was a good scene, but I think I really liked the best friend. Is it Hector? I can't remember his name. I should remember
Was
it.
his name Hector? He was my favorite, though. He was absolutely my
The
favorite in
friend.
that
He
movie.
was he was so funny. Like everything was pretty like believable and organic.
Mhm.
There was a couple scenes that I thought I was like, wow, I don't know how they did that. Like whenever the body comes falling from the sky, lands on the car, and the car explodes, like that was really cool and intense. And there's a really nice sequence where they're going to light firecrackers, and someone runs out of the apartment. And they're like, "Was that Oscar?" And all of a sudden, the camera pans back to, I think his name's Hector, and the fireworks explode. And so there was just really nice sequences that were really well thought out, and executed well. But I don't know, the Paranormal Activity movies, except for the first one, aren't ones that are super rewatchable. So I enjoyed
Mm.
this one. I enjoyed the lightheartedness, and I enjoyed the thought put into it. And it's got a lot going on, a lot of elements to it. But didn't love it. There's, man, and I'll get into why I don't love found footage movies. And really, it's the believability and the performances, because they do feel more realistic, and you are kind of hindered with your creativity and what you can do with found footage, which is also part of the charm. So you really have to have a really compelling, believable story. But the most important aspect is always the acting. Always. I'm always like super listening to the dialogue and how it's being
Yeah.
delivered. I'm just like, I can't help but like be like hyper focused.
See, this is why I love found footage movies so much, because I feel like it's such like I feel like it should be, at least, such a simple thing, and every aspect has to be absolutely perfect for you to be engrossed in it and for it to be, like, somewhat believable.
I want to touch briefly on Lake Mungo. I think everyone knows Lake Mungo is like a fan favorite, genre favorite of found footage. I think it's a heavy
Mhm.
hitter. Whenever people talk about found footage, they're like Lake Mungo. So I've never seen it until last night. I'll say this: it is beautifully shot. Like the composition is wonderful. It is airtight, structure wise. However, I could not get submerged into that story. Um, I just did not find it compelling enough. It was very monotone for me, and there were some like side stories with, spoiler, where she's like sleeping with the neighbor. I wasn't fully understanding why that was happening. I also wasn't understanding why everyone doesn't lock their houses. Like everyone just goes into people's houses. Like
Yes.
what was with that? Like the mom's like, yeah, I kind of just like to go around the neighborhood and go inside people's houses and kind of live their lives for a moment. I'm like, who leaves their doors unlocked? Did you find that weird? Did you pick that up whenever you watched it?
That entire movie, I remember watching it and I was like, what is the hype?" Like, I was just like, "Really?"
Yeah, I really enjoyed the first, I don't know, 20 minutes of it, when you can feel the grief of this family because their daughter, like, that she was pulled from this, was it, I guess, was it the lake or river? And she's like all like just messy and nasty and slimy and ooey gooey. So
Yeah.
that was chilling and disturbing to see and think about. Then the whole neighbor sleeping with the neighbor, I was like, ugh, why? Um,
Yeah.
but the one scene that I really did like, there's a lot of dialogue from, I think her name's Alice, where she's like, it's really haunting. Like this one actually gave me goosebumps, where she's like, I feel like something bad is gonna happen to me, and it already has happened. It just hasn't reached me yet. I'm like, ooh, that's
I got
spooky.
goosebumps right now.
And then she like confronts her death, like the manifestation of her like inevitable future, face to face. I'm just like, that is really unnerving and creepy. But I've heard about that scene for years, and it didn't like
Mm.
it didn't floor me like it did a lot of people, but I still thought it was written really well and it was spooky. And so that was the best part of the movie. But the rest of it, I was just kind of like, eh,
Yeah, I kinda thought it
you know,
was, okay. It was a little, dull for me. Like, and not that I don't
Yeah.
want a whole bunch of like action and stuff. Like, you not I think you're not supposed to get that in like found footage movies. Really, they're supposed to be
Right.
long, drawn out, like realistic. Like, we're filming this because we're chatting. We're filming this, and but this one, I don't know. There's something about it.
I wanted the story to focus more on the disappearance of this girl and how they keep sensing her in this house. And it's a really heavy, depressing feeling that they can't shake. They're not sure what to do. Is she there? Is she not? And
Huh.
anytime you would see a glimpse of her, like the director would just have you zoom in on it and be like, look, there she is. Do you see
Yeah.
her? Isn't that scary? Look at her. And
Y-
it was too forced. I'd rather pick that up out of the corner of my eye or from like rewatching. I think
Yes.
that is so much scarier. It's like, is she back there? Fuck, I think that is. I don't know.
Yeah, when they do those like forced shots of like there's supposed to be like a little hidden effect or hidden like scare in there, and when they're like, wait, it's like, well, you don't have faith in your viewers, and it's almost like you don't have faith in
I hate that.
like
There's just spoon
yourself and
feeding the
putting it out
audience.
there. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that one was kind of a okay, Kevin. You
Okay, what
what
makes found footage
makes
good?
and what you like look for to make it good. Like, what do you
Right.
like? Because I feel like we're the same way when we go into it. Actually, when I go into found footage movies, I'm thinking it's probably not going to be great just because there's so many specific things that have to be perfect for me in order for me to be like, wow, it's amazing.
Mhm.
So, what are those things?
Man, this is a good question. I haven't really thought about it, so I'm gonna unpack it like naturally. But and it's funny that I'm the guy saying I don't love found footage when I think the Blair Witch Project is my favorite movie of all time, and I have it on right behind me like that.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll talk about it. But what makes found footage good? I think what makes it really interesting and separates it is like I said earlier, you're really limited with your creativity and what you can do. Um, and there's a believability about it. There's a grittiness to found footage, and it almost feels a little bit more realistic than like a really well shot, produced, directed, acted horror movie. And I think
Mm,
maybe the reason why I don't love found footage movies so much is because of those limitations where you know you have to be this POV shot and you have to have glitchy footage or you have to have a really believable lead actor or um, ensemble. Whereas you know you have the entire sandbox to play with in like a standard horror movie with lighting
mm,
and cinematography and atmosphere, like different. You have more to play with, I guess. And so what I like about found footage movies, circling back to that, is the grittiness, the scrappiness of them, and how can you make something feel super realistic? Because there is a more sense of realism in found footage movies if you're able to pull
mhm.
it off.
To me, it's like when you're watching just like a normal, like produced movie, like not a found footage, not normal, but anything that's not found footage. It's like it's almost like you're watching something by choice. It's not like something's happening to you. And like found footage is almost like you're in it. And like the characters,
Yeah.
when you're behind, it's like they're talking to you.
Hmm.
Even though they're talking to the person recording, there's more of this personal feeling and this personal connection that you can get to, like, some of the
Very
characters and just in
much.
general because they're looking at you. It's like they're making eye contact with you, and it's like you're kind of in that situation with them instead of just watching, like, a play on a screen. You're watching something play out, and it's like it's a written story. Like, it's like someone wrote this and make a
Yeah.
movie, blah, blah, but found footage is like, yeah, it's a written story, but they have to present it like it's not a written story, and I know they do in other movies, but found footage is, like, just so different because it's like this is happening in real time with
Hmm.
you going through it, and all their reactions have to feel extremely genuine. All, like, what they're
Yeah.
saying, their words, like, their how they react to their surroundings, like, the camera, the way it's filmed. I don't know anything about filmmaking, just FYI, but, to me, I'm just like, how I'll watch a found footage movie, I'm like, "How are they making this? How are they capturing what they want you to see with also moving it all like this?" Or, like, they're picking up the
Yeah.
camera after falling, they needed it to be framed perfectly for what the director wanted you to see. I'm like, "How are they
Hmm.
doing this?" Because it's not like a still shot camera and it's happening. It's like the camera's another character. It's like the
Hmm.
camera itself is moving along with the whole story, and it's like and you gotta make that seem natural and
Hmm.
organic. Like,
It's
how do
tough.
you
Found footage might be the most challenging form of like horror to really pull off. I love everything that you said about how personal it does feel. It feels like you're in that moment with them, and there's really like, you know, you don't get like a gory opening like you would get in a Scream movie. You don't get like a big finale reveal, final act. You don't get a twist really. I mean, I guess you could in found footage, but found footage, you're just dumped into this moment of time, and
Mhm.
you are going to experience what these characters are experiencing. You know, there's no like super crazy special effects or twists or turns really, and you're just stuck in this memory of what's on these tapes. And I just think the Blair Witch just pulls it off so much. Like that's some of the best acting I've ever seen from all three of those very, 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 very talented people. Just the lore of that movie, like it sinks itself into you immediately within the first 10 minutes, and you are hooked. And fuck, man, everything that's filmed in that movie, every line of dialogue in that movie is so believable. We've been spoiled with the Blair Witch. Like that bar is
Oh
set
yeah.
so high. There's some found footage movies that are really, really well done, but there is something about the Blair Witch that is like untouchable. It will never be touched. And I think there's a
Mhm.
lot to do with that, with how perfect that movie is, directed, acted, edited, everything. But also when the time it came out, I think really was like lightning in a bottle. It was so perfect.
Oh,
Oh my God.
I know. See, I know the Blair Witch. It's a
I
perfect
love it.
movie. It is absolutely perfect, and it does another thing that I look for in found footage, and what I love about found footage movies, and like this is what I've seen in movies, like the Blair Witch, and like I know you're not really a fan of Willow Creek, but Willow Creek, right? You've seen Willow Creek, you didn't like it, okay?
Yeah.
And also, I want to say not like Hell House, but Hell House, you knew in the beginning that bad things happened at this house, and like Willow Creek wasn't like that. And then also like The Outwaters, this was another example of like a found footage movie where that did this so perfectly, is that I love movies with the slow burn, and I love that movies, especially horror movies that feel really cozy. And I think found footage movies do this perfectly, is like there's such a buildup, and the characters feel so safe in the beginning, always. They have the sense of
Hmm.
security where they're like, we're going into this part, we're gonna catch this, and we're gonna do this. And they're just like, oh, I'm here just to see Bigfoot, and nothing bad's gonna happen. And they have this, and you feel like, and then you're watching, you're like, oh, this is a nice little home movie that I'm watching. This is great. And then all of a sudden and I remember, especially The Outwaters, I'm like, wait a second,
Yeah.
this is a horror movie. And you forget for a moment, like, wait, this is a horror movie and shit's gonna
Yeah.
go down. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what we're gonna see and what they're gonna see, how they're gonna react to it. What are they gonna
Hmm.
do to the thing that they see? I don't know.
Hmm.
And it's always found footage. So sometimes you kind of know that these people are all gonna die most of the time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like you don't know how, you don't know what the I don't know.
That's a good point. Found footage does have like that really cozy element to it. I don't know. It
Mm.
just like all like I love film. The aesthetic and the found footage feel. I love the graininess of it. I love how like kind of unprofessional it is. It
Yeah.
feels it feels so different compared to like your standard big budget horror movie. And again, I love the scrappiness. I love the scrappiness of found footage. Like, we'll probably get into like our favorite found footage movies, but since you brought up the Outwaters, I really did appreciate the time Robbie Banfitch, the director, took to introduce us to these characters, and it's very, very patient, so patient and cozy. And then that movie just flips the switch and does a complete like turns your world upside down. And it was really cool to experience that, because a lot of found footage movies are kind of, check this box, check that box. You kind of know how it's gonna kind of go. And with Robbie, with the
Mm.
Outwaters, it was so different, and there's substance. Even with like just the shots are really beautiful. I just thought there was a lot of substance
Mm.
to the Outwaters.
I just think that this is like the whole found footage movies, especially for people of our age. I know I'm a little bit older than you still, but the whole movie type aspect has such this nostalgic comfort feeling. So I think
Yeah.
there's a way that we like connect with it, that maybe like
Hmm.
people growing up now won't connect with as much because they have everything recorded at all times.
And it's super
So
like
it's
high quality and clear with iPhones
yeah.
and all these really
Mhm.
fancy cameras. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting how the found footage genre continues, or if it evolves, or if it dies, or what, in the
Mm.
next decade or so.
I want to talk about that. But
Mhm.
first, I want to talk about, so we said what we like and what we look for in
Yeah.
found footage movies. And well, seriously, like the acting has to be like on point, right? Like we both agree, like we're
Mhm.
very hyper focused on the acting and how believable
Yeah.
it is.
I'm so picky and particular with acting. Yeah.
Like I said before, it's like when I'm watching like The Conjuring or something and like the way they're acting, it's like more of such an outside view. Like I always like say it's like a play that's watching it is not it's not them interacting with you or interacting with somebody. So it's just like I want to feel like it's just my friends talking to me and I want to feel like this is all happening at the same time as happening with me. Like I'm not watching a movie. I'm watching a found footage movie. Like it's totally
Mhm.
different feeling. So the acting, there's all like the editing has to be like so tight, like you say, the structure. I really, sometimes the story doesn't even have to be like the greatest,
No.
but the script has to be, and the editing and even the lighting, like everything has to be like tight for it to be super believable.
Yeah, for me, it's believability. You can have the most simplistic story, and I'm perfect with that. I don't need something
Hmm.
crazy. I don't need a big M. Night Shyamalan twist. I want something that feels real, that is gonna burr
Hmm.
itself into me, and I'm not gonna forget it. And that's what the Blair Witch does. Like, it's a very simple story. There's this
Yes.
lure, there's this tale about a witch, and there's these kids that are making a documentary about it. And they go in the woods, and some scary shit happens. That's it. It's so simple, but what makes that movie a masterpiece that it is the acting. The acting
Yes.
and the the buildup of their inevitable doom. Like like these little things that happen are so well written and subtle and scary, and it allows your mind to just wander. And the sound design, like you gotta have good sound design. You gotta have good sound
Hmm.
design and good acting, and you gotta have an interesting story. And so I guess I'll touch on a movie that I did not like, and that is Butterfly Kisses.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
really, really good premise. It's about this really spooky legend called Peeping Tom. And if you go to this railroad track and you look into the tunnel for an hour without blinking, he comes for you. And each time I guess each time you blink, he gets closer to you until he's face to face with you and you feel your eyelashes start to tickle. That means it was his eyelashes tickling yours to make you blink so he can get you. What a great I got
Me
goosebumps
too.
just
I got
talking about
goosebumps
that.
too.
Like, what a great premise. Fantastic
Mm.
premise. But the entire like 90-minute runtime is led by I don't remember the actor's name, or his character's name, but just a very unlikable character that is leading this documentary, and he throws tantrums the whole time. He's very like pouty and just off. He wears a weird hat. And also
Yeah.
the entire movie is people just talking about, is this real? It's not real. It's not real. I'm just like, what's the point of this movie? I want to get scared. Like, and then you have these two characters that do this crazy act of not blinking down this tunnel, and then Peeping Tom's coming after him, but the acting's really bad. And then they show
That
Peeping
was
Tom a lot that looks a little goofy instead of just making your mind wander. And so like that story, they had something good. And I was just really disappointed by that one.
I remember watching it and I didn't mind it actually. But you're right about the acting.
Another thing I hate with found footage movies is when they do the cheap like glitch effect. That takes me out so
Good.
much. And it
I
just
want to talk
covers
about what
up.
we hate.
It just covers up.
Yes.
It makes it look like you're not confident with your story and with your film. And it's just an easy gimmick. It's just an easy thing to throw over
Mhm.
top of your movie and be like, isn't this crazy? This is scary. And I've never liked the glitch effect.
When things were found footage tapes, like on a tape, and there was like some like damage to the actual film that would be on the tape, I could
Mhm.
forgive that more than
Yeah.
now them finding like a digital card and then there's glitching. But like with this some of the glitches, like, I don't know how it works, guys, like, I don't know how it works, but if there was, like, a damaged card and there was glitching, would it sound like that? Or would just, like, the image be like, I just feel like they're just adding effects in that probably
Yeah.
wouldn't even happen in the first place,
Hmm.
and I am so with you on the glitch effect, so with you. And, you know, if you wanna throw, like, maybe one in there, like a quick one, whatever. Hell House does that
Yeah.
really bad at the end, and it
Glad you
was
brought
too
Hell House up.
much. I
Yeah,
love that movie, but it was too much.
I agree. I was enjoying Hill House. I mean, it's not great, it's not perfect, but it's cozy. I think it's either in New England or New York. You got that kind of dreary, rainy, cold
Mhm.
weather. I'm like, "Ooh, yeah, I want like a big bowl of soup and just watch this movie." They go into this they make this haunted house and not with a lot of stuff either. They have like, they got some spider webs and a few clowns, and they're about to open this up to the public. Like it's not great. But, there's some really cool scenes in that movie with the
Mhm.
clowns and the strobe light, and god, that scene with the girl at the end of the bed where the guy's, like, hiding underneath the
Yeah.
sheets. Looks like Linda Blair. It's
Yeah.
so scary. But then
Yeah.
at the end, they poop their pants with the glitch stuff. Oh, I hated that.
It's too
Yeah,
much. It's too
yeah.
much. I agree. So that's something that we really don't like in found footage movies. We don't like seeing that. We don't like seeing the glitch effect. What else,
Stop it.
Kevin? Tell me things you don't like about it. I wanna hear
Gl
I
the
wanna hear some, like,
glitch
rage, like,
glitch effects or found footage?
oh, found footage movies, like, tell me what you don't like, tell me why, if they're not, like, something you would
Um,
go to.
I mean, I think I pretty much covered all of it. I think again, because you were so limited with what you can show and what you can do, and you're really in this moment with these people, I have to believe that this is happening. Like, I have to
Mhm,
believe the performances, it has to be written well. The dialogue has to be something like we would say. And a lot of times I feel like the actors, I mean, they're probably not the best actors. I don't know how you would go about into the casting department there, but I guess what I'm trying to say is a lot of times the performances feel like they're not giving it their all, like they're too afraid to commit to
mhm,
getting there. And that's probably just acting in general. Like it's probably really hard to like show your soul and tear your outer image down and just go for it. As with
mhm,
anything in life. And so I think a lot of times whenever I hear people try to sound scared or like, what the fuck? It just feels like they're forcing it and it doesn't feel
mhm,
authentic. And I just have such a crazy radar for that. And so that's my biggest thing with found footage is if it feels like it's not genuine in the first little bit, it's hard for me to continue with it. And then the glitch stuff, the cheap stuff I hate. I don't mind shaky cam stuff. I don't mind a slow story, a slow burn. Really, it's just yeah, the dialogue and the acting, and it's pretty
mhm.
rough in some found footage movies.
Yes, and I think that a lot of the times, these are, like, passion project, indie project
Yeah,
things that, like, directors are starting out with. Also, I think it's really hard to make a found footage movie with, like, well-known actors because you wanna believe.
yeah,
You wanna believe that these people died, you wanna believe that they actually did this. So, like, having, like, a big Hollywood with famous actors found footage is kind of like, one example is, As Above, So Below. That's not like, it's not huge actors in it, but there's, like, an actor in it that I've seen in, like, numerous
Friday the
things.
13th. Yeah, the remake. He's in that one. That's
Oh,
all I've
yeah.
seen him from.
He was in Mad Men, and he was in,
Oh,
also Cloverfield. He was in Cloverfield, which is another found footage movie, a big Hollywood one.
I remember the build up to Cloverfield. I remember the hype and
Yep.
like, what is this? And you would get little glimpses in the trailer. And I remember that was such a fun time. That's when IMDb still had message boards and people were like speculating and talking about what this monster was, where it came from. And I remember liking the movie, but also kind of just being like, it was okay. But I think Matt Reeves directed it. I think it's directed really well. I think it's shot really well.
So it's too grand a scale. I like
It
my
did.
found footage movies very intimate, a few characters in the cast, and very simple. No, I like practical effects. I don't like hardcore crazy effects or like altered faces that are, you know, obviously computer. Like I
Yeah.
want the simplest form. That's why the Blair Witch Project again is perfect because you don't see anything and you don't need to. It's your imagination.
Mhm.
Your imagination is like the scariest thing in the world. So That's why the Blair Witch is so perfect too. It's
Exactly.
like you don't need to see that witch. You don't barely even need to hear that witch. Like yeah.
You don't. They freaking sink their teeth into you with the interviews with the townsfolk at the beginning, and some of them are really
Mhm.
creepy. Makes your hair stand up. And even that one lady that's like, she had hair like a horse hair. She looks like the Blair Witch, does she not?
That was a perfect impersonation. Do you ever realize that her gait is like the stick people? Like her gait
No,
on
doesn't
her house
surprise me because she is
is
the
like
Blair
kind of
Witch.
twigs. She might
Yeah,
be.
she creeped me out for sure, and she felt real. And so like that movie, like it gets into you with those interviews and how Heather's like asking the questions. It just feels very like you're just leaned in. You're like, fuck, this is real. This is so real. Whew, that's how you do a fucking movie.
Mhm.
Less is more. You don't need anything crazy.
No, you don't need anything crazy. That's like it's like having like um getting like a Big Mac or something, right? You're getting a Big Mac, a
Oh yeah.
processed, all this shit on it, Big Mac, and you're like, "Eh." Or you can get like a very simple gourmet cheeseburger, nothing on it but meat and cheese done perfectly well. And like that's the one you're gonna go for. You're gonna go for the quality over the
Like
quantity. You want the simplistic, like what?
the cheeseburger at the end of the menu.
Yes,
Man, that
that's part
cheeseburger
of the
looked good.
movie.
The only good part of the movie. Um,
Yep.
I love Big Macs too. Like I love a big old sloppy Big Mac. Um, but I don't want like a bunch of bacon put on my cheeseburger. I don't want a bunch of over the top crazy stuff because sometimes like the most simplistic, sometimes I just want a cheese pizza. Sometimes I just want a really good cheese pizza. I don't need a supreme, even though I love supreme. I don't need all this
Mhm.
ham or pineapple or anything crazy on it. Sometimes a cheese
Yeah.
pizza is just like, man, that hit the spot. And I think that can
Mhm.
be said with found footage or with stories in general.
Exactly. With any movie, yeah, it's like, yeah, there's like, give me a Big Mac here. You know what I feel like? I just feel like lounging out on a Big Mac and not thinking about how good, like whatever, what's in this burger. I don't give a shit.
Mhm,
I'm just gonna eat it.
mhm.
But then there's like you want the quality from like, let's get like the good pizza place, the expensive pizza place that has like just the best cheese pizza, and you're like, ooh, yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yes.
Very good metaphor or analogy.
Yeah, same thing.
Now I want pizza
Well, if,
and a burger.
me too. I want like one in each hand.
Mhm.
The thing about the Blair Witch stories, gotta throw this in there, is that when they were interviewing the people in the town, they didn't know they were actors. They didn't know they were
That's
interviewing
cool.
actors. They
That's
thought they were
very cool.
interviewing real people, and when Heather's running and you hear her say, "What's that?" It's the producer, I think, in all white outfit, with, like, a white sock on his face running, and she didn't know what she was gonna see. She didn't know what she was even looking at. There's this fast white
Yeah.
thing running through they fucked with them. They didn't know what was gonna happen. They fed them less and less every single day to make them actually irritable. They would like and they didn't know
It's
themselves
great.
what I know, they didn't know themselves what the other person was gonna say. They had these capsules that they'd go to, and they'd find their lines, and they'd find, like, their like, "You're gonna be the one" this is what I think really is happening. "You're gonna be the one who says, 'Oh, I kicked the map in the river. You're gonna
Mhm,
the creek.'" And so, I think when he announced that, they didn't know. That was all improv.
mhm.
So I think he knew that was his line and they did not know. And just like everything put into that movie and the thought and the marketing. Oh,
It's awesome. Yeah, I love
ugh,
that story. I love hearing little behind the scenes
ugh.
details and facts about that movie. I love it so much. I think the director is it Eduardo Sanchez.
I think so, yeah.
I think so. Dude, love you, man. I love you so much. That movie's fantastic. I think he's directed some other pretty good horror movies or found footage movies, but man, he really did something special. The whole creative team did something special with that movie. And
Yeah.
I love Heather. Heather crushes
Mhm.
that movie. Like her guttural fear and panic and remorse is really has that movie brimming with reality. Is her
Mhm.
performance as well as like the lure and the story. Like Heather's so I mean everybody's great in that, but Heather really brings it.
She starts off so sure. And she's so
Mhm.
like, this is what we're doing. She's so sure of everything. She's like, this is gonna be the best project. We're gonna have the best time. And then she breaks so hard and she's just broken by the
I
end.
love it. I love it so much. The line of dialogue where Josh is like, I know why you keep filming is like it's not quite reality. I'm just like, fuck, that's so good.
So
So
good. And
good.
you know what? They say
So
that
true.
in another movie. Isn't that another one I've seen? And it's like, it's so true. Yeah. It's like you're not part of it. It's like you're
Mhm.
watching it all unveil in front of you.
You're safe behind it, kind of. It's not, you're not really in the danger zone. You're protected by this little object that gives you this little teensy teensy bit of separation. That's
Mhm.
not there. That's not really there. It's cool. It's
No,
really cool. It's really cool way to explain why they're filming, and it's really cool. Just a really cool line in general.
it is. There has to be a
Mhm.
reason why they keep filming, right? That's like the what otherwise you throw
It's
the camera down, like trying to save your life. But
it's all I fucking have. Okay.
didn't Eduardo Sanchez do
VHS,
Exist?
maybe.
He did direct it.
Interesting. Okay.
And
I don't hate
I actually I
Exists.
like that movie. No, I didn't
I
hate it
I
either.
I prefer it over Willow Creek. I know that's going to be very, very debatable. Yeah, Willow Creek. I understand why you like it. I understand why a lot of people like it, but it was, man, especially that tense scene, that 18-minute long shot, might be longer. I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, I'm not feeling this, and I'm so picky and specific with that. And I think a lot of people, that was what made the movie for them, and it's
Mm.
different. It is very different and tense and interesting. But I don't know. I just wasn't feeling it. And with Exist, I think there's some really scary shots of Bigfoot. I mean, they do reveal what he looks like, but I'm talking about the scene outside the cabin where it's just his silhouette, where he's kind of like crawling up the steps. It's fucking scary. Yeah.
They handled they handled the way you see Bigfoot so perfectly in that movie Exists. Like, it
Hmm.
was just, like, close-up shots or, like, from really far away or from the side, so it's like it didn't look hokey, it didn't look like a
Yeah.
guy in a suit a lot of the time. I think they really the reveals of Bigfoot in that movie, I think were done perfectly. Willow Creek, man, that 18-minute scene, I was, like, literally on the edge of my seat, like, "What's gonna happen?" And they didn't know what was
Yeah.
happening too, like, the actors had no idea what they were gonna do.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's definitely fair. I think I just wanted the guy and the girl, like,
You're
if
wrong.
if I was if I was in Bigfoot country, I'm gonna be on edge, on my toes, scared shitless. Like, I'm gonna be hypersensitive, on the lookout, head on a swivel. And they're just kind of like frolicking in the woods and go in their tents. And then they hear some stuff there, and the guy's just kind of sitting there. He's like, I would be like, I would be freaking out.
True.
But
Okay,
I'm
okay,
not. I'm
okay.
not trying to hate. I'm not trying to hate. I'm sorry.
Hate all you want, please. Hate all you want. I like
No,
it.
no
I'm not
hate.
like I don't think you're wrong, actually. I totally could see why someone wouldn't like it, and I respect your opinion. Come on
Mm.
now. We're
I
allowed to
don't
have
hate that
differences,
movie.
Kevin.
I don't. I don't hate that movie. I didn't love it, and I've heard so
Mhm.
many good things about it, like from you and the Outwaters director Robbie. You know, he really loves that movie as well. I was like, what is this Bigfoot found footage movie that's being compared to Blair Witch, but with Bigfoot? And I was just like, womp womp.
But
I'm sorry.
it is essentially Blair Witch with Bigfoot. Like, it is. Like, they
It
clearly were
is
super duper
a
inspired because you don't
discount
see it
version.
ever, and
Yeah,
yeah, I just
it is great value.
now, this day and age, like were saying, you don't know what's going to happen with found footage, like with the new like technology and everything like that. Like,
Mhm.
where do you think it's going to go? What do you think has to happen to like keep found footage movies alive? Like, with like the different filming styles and like how everything's so accessible now. Like, what do you think they need
It's
to
a good
do, or where do you think
question.
it's
I mean,
going?
I don't think it's gonna. Well, I hope it doesn't die, because as long as people have a camera, whether that's a iPhone or like a Sony or a Canon, people are always going to want to. People are always on their phones. People are always making little short films or whatever, and so I think it's going to just continue to go forward with the technology that we have. However, what makes found footage movies so scary and immersive is like the grain of it, and how
Hmm.
you can hide stuff really well in
Hmm.
the quality of the footage, like from the 90s 80s. And so it'll be interesting to see how that evolves or devolves going forward. What do you think?
That's like, again, one of my most favorite things about found footage too is like if it's like an old VHS with the grit and the grain and the rawness of it. I
Mhm.
love that. Again, maybe it's the nostalgia, and like you say, they can hide a lot of stuff, and it adds a little bit of character to it. It's like listening to
Yeah.
a record and aside, like instead of like a download or like on a
Yes.
CD. It's like you got that scratches and you got that
With
like,
the
ooh,
pops.
and
Yeah.
that's what VHS is in comparison to like movies now, like
Hmm.
digital film. I would be more inclined to like watch a movie that was like, oh, these tapes were found and they're from the 90s. I'd be like, ooh, like
Yeah.
Skinamarink. So
Exactly.
that kind of is like more intriguing to me. But they can do good, effective found footage with like like clean, clear, crisp recordings, and also drones and all that stuff, because we have all these different like avenues of way to film things. Like that's what they did in Paranormal Activity Next of Kin. They had some slow motion
True.
stuff in there too, which is kind of silly, but the scene was pretty cool. And like with the
Yeah.
outwaters and everything. And yeah, like
Well,
that felt very found footage to me, even though it was like crisp and clean.
I was gonna bring that up. That great point, because the Outwaters, I'm not sure exactly what camera they use, and even in Skinamarink, they use like a really expensive camera, and they just made it look like it was an old camera with the footage, and so
Yeah.
that's cool as fuck. And with the Outwaters, I mean, it looks really nice, like it's clean, but it still feels authentic and not like too sterile, like a lot of movies can feel nowadays. But honestly, like whenever it starts to get dark out, cameras are going to get grainy anyways with like the ISO and the quality of the footage anyway. So it's not like cameras are going to be super crystal clear at nighttime just because they're more advanced now. They're still going to be really grainy and fuzzy. And I still think, you can still have that found footage coziness for a while.
Yeah. They better
Yeah.
at least keep going. All you like, especially like you new coming directors, like I don't care. Like I've seen people talk about like the newer found footage movies, like, oh, was this some sort of like college thesis? And I'm like, I hope it was, because this is
Yeah.
amazing. And if they're getting this much recognition for like their first ever film, I love that.
Me
Love it.
too. Me too. That's why I love Skinamarink and the Outwater so much. Is they're
Mhm.
scrappy and independent little films, low budget, and they are on the big screen. Like that's my dream. That's anybody's dream, and
Mhm.
they're profitable, and they are polarizing. But I'm just glad that I'm on the side that I really loved them and really appreciated them, and so I just think that's so cool.
I think polarizing is, first of all, in these days, like inevitable almost. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's people are so vocal about their hates, and look at the teeth in the background. Oh my God, we just
I
saw
know he's got his
Josh's
tongue and
teeth
his
in the
fingers.
background.
I always wonder what was in that.
I think being polarizing is like a good thing, because like it's
Me
creating
too. They took a
discussion. That's how
swing.
you get your name out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also like that's how people are going to hear about it. Like, here's this movie, it sucks. No, I love it. And it's like, ooh, I want to see it and form my own opinion. Oh, and like you said about like the grit and the grain and how like it hides stuff. Like Skinamarink does that so perfectly with just like a
Yeah.
shot in the darkness, and it's so grainy that you're thinking, is there? It's like, can I see something? Is there something there? Is there supposed to be something there? Is it just blackness? It's almost like the grain was its own, I don't want to say character, but it's almost like it created this
It was
atmosphere
though.
that just, yeah, I
It's an
think,
ent
right?
it was like
Is that it?
it's an entity almost.
Entity. Thank you. Yes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Fuck, man, I love Skinamarink. It resonated with me in a lot of areas, in a lot of ways for different reasons, but I also just appreciated the hell out of the direction and how this is what it's gonna be. This is gonna be abstract. This is gonna be something that will either resonate with you or not, and I just never seen a movie like that, and I appreciated just the elements that were carefully placed in that movie and the
Mhm.
subtlety and the writing. I think the writing's perfect in that movie. I think the dialogue's perfect. It's not over the top. It's scary. There's just enough to really grab a hold of you. And I think the two little kids, Kevin and Kaylee, are so believable, and you can
Mhm.
relate to being a little kid and the fears that came with being a little kid, the abandonment, the fear of the dark, losing your parents, and just I really liked Skinamarink a lot. And to your point, I think horror in the high desert,
Yes. Horror in the High Desert.
which Heart in the High Desert.
Mhm.
Spoilers, but the one of the last shots in that movie is so scary because it's blended into all of this hypnotic grain from the camera, and there that shot of that creature or that woman that crouches next to the house where she's camouflaged is so scary. Oh, love that shot.
I'm, like, getting, like, choked up because I remember first seeing that, I was like, "Oh, that just made" like, I actually really like the movie, it's like a documentary style found footage. That one scene is probably one of my favorite scenes in any found footage movies I've ever seen.
It's
Like, that
wonderful. It's
I
so scary.
oh,
Yes.
why don't we talk about what our favorite found footage movies
Yeah.
are and the ones that we'd recommend to people?
We probably kind of have the same recommendations, but if you haven't seen the Blair Witch Project, you got to get on that. That's a movie I could watch every single day and it never gets old. And it makes my eyes watery because it scares me so bad. And it hits every single time. Blair Witch Project, the first Paranormal Activity, I think it's really scary. I remember going to see that in the theater. I remember it was very, very hyped, maybe a little overhyped, but I still think there's some really creative moments where she gets pulled out of the bed that is terrifying, where she stands next to Mika and she's just standing there and the camera like fast forwards. That's scary. The demon walking across the flower into the bed, scary. Just hearing it come out of the attic at night is fucking terrifying. Your favorite host. Host is a scary one. Very, very tense. I think that's another good found footage movie with some believability and some good acting. Some of the girls in that movie are very, very scared and tense, and that's a good one. And there's some really scary scenes, like the attic scene. Whoo, that's a scary one.
Um,
Um,
okay, so that's on my list too, but just before we move on with your list, let me just say a couple things about Host. That is a perfect example of how new modern technology you can use that avenue to make a perfect found footage movie by doing it through a Zoom call. I
yep,
don't know if people have seen it. It's like a 53-minute movie on Shutter. It's perfect runtime. It's so
yep.
believable. The acting's perfect. It's a Zoom call it was recorded during quarantine time, and
Simple
it's the
story.
only simple story, everything was perfectly executed, and it's the only movie I've ever screamed in. The only movie
Mhm.
I've ever screamed during.
There is moments where you're gonna shit your pants, and there's moments where the camera lingers. But it's also fun because you have all these little boxes from the people that are on the Zoom chat, and there's little things that are happening that you miss, and so it's fun to go back. And if you have the balls to do it,
Yes.
go back and just see what's
Mhm.
happening like behind them. And so that's a scary one. That's a fun one, and I love that it's not super long either. It does what it's intended to do, and then it leaves. Um,
Yep.
The Outwaters,
Mhm.
very divisive film. I've seen some really negative reviews about that, but man, I just really respect the hell out of the creativity with that movie. I think I said it when I first got out of the theater. It was far more creative and ambitious than I thought it was ever going to be. Like the stuff with some of the creature effects and some
Mhm.
really ambiguous, like cosmic horror imagery. I was just like, whoa. I just was not expecting the imagery in the second half of that movie. And so
Mhm.
just yeah, if you like cosmic horror, if you're into kind of like an assault on your senses visually and audibly, I would
Mhm.
give that a shot. Skinamarink. I just love how immersive that movie is. I just feel like I'm underwater and I'm inside of my nightmare that I had when I was a kid, like a very reoccurring subconscious nightmare. And that's also, we've touched on it, but a very, very abstract, ambiguous, slow burn. Super slow. But I think if you give it some time, watch it in your room at night, like on your laptop, give it time to really submerge you. Like really just be like, okay, this is what it's gonna be. Really focus on the grain, the fuzziness, the sound design, and just be in that house with those two kids. And I think it'll work for you. The Visit, M. Night Shyamalan, my guy. And I really like M. Night Shyamalan. I think this is a a nice little gem of a found footage movie. It's about
Hmm.
two kids that go to their grandparents' house, quote unquote. There's some creepy stuff that happens here, specifically when she's underneath the house and the grandma's like, "I'm gonna get you," and she starts crawling towards her.
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap, that is so scary.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids are pretty likable too. The little boy's like a little rapper. I mean, I guess they could be annoying. All kids kind of are, but I think they're pretty likable. I got Quarantine. I got that on there. I think that one is a little Hollywoodized. It's a little, yeah, I guess I don't know how else to say it, Hollywoodized, but I think the ending's really scary where they're inside the I guess it's the basement or where like the thing comes from, and you have that creature down there. That's fucking scary. Lake Mungo I have on there just because I feel like that's like probably the most one of the most talked about found footage movies. I would recommend it just to see if it does anything for you. Exist, cool little Bigfoot movie. The Last Exorcism I thought was not terrible. There's some
I haven't
moments
seen
in
it.
that. Ooh, you might really like
I
it
haven't
actually.
seen.
It's pretty damn scary. There's some scary imagery in that. Hell House, simple movie.
Yeah.
Just a cozy little found footage horror movie. Has some cool moments of scares. Nothing too crazy. Wish the ending stuck the landing a little bit better, but that's a fun one. I got VHS on there. Really, the only one I really love is the vampire one, the very first VHS. But I also have some movies that are not quote unquote found footage movies, but have found footage elements in these movies, specifically
Ah.
Sinister and Halloween Resurrection. It was going to be on there. I had to
See,
talk about it.
okay, see, Halloween Resurrection gets such a bad rep. Like it's not great. It's not, it's more like light for Halloween movies, like trick or treat, motherfucker. Like it's like, come on
It's
now.
the
It's kind of
bottom of the
jokey.
barrel. Yeah.
No, Halloween Ends is the
Well,
bottom of the
well, I'm sorry.
barrel, but
Excuse me. It's down there, but the bottom, like below the bottom of the barrel, is Halloween Ends and Kills. Those are
yeah,
below that
thank
for
you.
me.
But I always appreciated Halloween Resurrection because of that's when reality TV shows became it came out during that time when reality TV was like a huge hit. And I thought it was such a genius thing to do is like add that element into
Mhm.
that movie. And I never really looked at it as being found footage because I looked at it as being like reality show. But
Yep.
when you say that, I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe that's why
It,
I kind of don't mind Halloween Resurrection.
yeah, it's fun. Like it's trashy, but it's like the
Yeah.
trashy junk food that you kind of like to enjoy from time to time. I'd rather watch Halloween Resurrection any day over Halloween Ends and Halloween Kills. Um,
Same.
might lose a few
Same.
fans over that, but man, that's just how it is for me. I think Halloween Resurrection is such a product of its time. It takes me right
Mhm.
back to reality TV shows and when things started to first I mean, maybe it was a little bit ahead of its time with the streaming stuff, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think that's definitely part of the charm of it. And I think the scariest part of that movie, there's no scary parts, but the only kind of like creepy parts is the found footage stuff. Whenever you see
Mhm.
Michael on the webcam down in the basement, I think
Yes.
that's really cool. I think that's a really well done shot.
It's the best parts of the movie because 'cause you're in it with those people, and if Michael's behind them, they don't know, and it's
Mhm.
just it's the most immersive parts of those movies is that, and that's what really
Yeah,
kind of
it's
puts you
fun.
into that movie. It's more believable than Busta Rhymes doing some karate moves, so, I mean,
Yeah, Michael Myers is a
it's the
killer shock. Yeah, it's terrible. Real quick, Sinister. I think the best part of that movie is the found
Mhm.
footage tapes. My favorite one is when they're at the pool and you just see Bagul start to like emerge from the depths of the pool. That is such a cool, scary shot. The lawnmower scene is terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
Even the hanging scene, the very first scene of the movie is really scary. And I love Ethan Hawke, but those Super 8 found footage movies, little movies are cool.
Alright. Good list, man.
What you
Okay,
got? Of
obviously Blair Witch, number 1, obviously.
course.
You don't get something branded on your body if you're not totally obsessed with it, if it's not, like, okay. So Blair Witch, we don't need to talk about that anymore. It's number 1. Willow Creek to me, I don't know, might be number 2. I just love Willow Creek. It's very slow burn. Like we said, there's an 18-minute one shot take where it's just
Yeah.
So if you're down for that, maybe you like this movie. I don't know if you want to see like a Bigfoot movie where, you don't really see much, but things happen.
Mhm.
Willow Creek. Paranormal Activity 1 is awesome. Paranormal Activity 2 is good. Paranormal Activity 3 is all right. Paranormal Activity 4 is meh, but Paranormal Activity, the marked ones, is my absolute favorite. It's just like
Oh, it's your
Kevin said, it's a lot.
favorite?
It's my favorite out of all the paranormal activities. It's the one I watch the most.
Over the first one?
I think the first one is better made, but I watched the marked ones a lot more. I'll put that one on at
Okay.
night and I'm like, "Oh, I feel cozy," because it's so lighthearted. The characters are so, you like them. Like, I didn't like Mika in the first one. I was like, "Katie,
Mhm.
all right, I don't know," but you get attached to the characters more in Paranormal Activity: The Marked Ones. Like, I really cared about them. I cared
Yeah.
about the grandma. I cared about the girl. I cared
Oh,
about
the
everybody in that
grandma.
movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just more of like a relatable, like it isn't this like we came into a bunch of money, like rich family. It's like a more believable setting.
Mhm.
There's like some like religious aspects in it. And it's just like, I don't know. The marked ones is my favorite. You
Yeah.
said Quarantine.
You can say
Now
wreck?
Quarantine, Wreck is what have you seen Wreck?
I don't think so. If I have seen it, I haven't seen it all the way through, or I saw it a long time ago. But I know people are like, dude, you need to see Wreck instead of Quarantine, but I just don't know if I've seen it.
Okay, Wreck is so good. I live in Canada, so I cannot find it anywhere. It's on no streaming services for me. None. But I think it is for you Americans. Rec is incredible. Quarantine is definitely the what did you call it?
Great value discount?
Oh god.
Yeah.
It's definitely the great value discount, but it's like because
Really?
I rewatched Quarantine like recently and I was like, no,
Okay.
Rec is really good. Rec 2 is really good. And Rec
Mhm.
2, they introduce like they mentioned it in Rec 1 because I haven't seen it so long, but Rec 2, like what the like infected people are is something that
Ooh.
I've never seen in a movie before, and it was so creepy and I loved it. Okay, Creep and Creep 2.
Yeah, I gotta just watch them. There's just something off-putting about that movie and that actor, but I gotta just do it.
That's kind of that's kind of the point.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's okay if
yeah.
you know that. Like it's just it's really I think they're really well done and really good. Hell House, love Hell House. I prefer the like regular release over the director's cut for sure. I watched like the extended version and I realized like yeah, this they made all good choices as to why they took out the stuff that they did. So Hell
Okay.
House, definitely really cozy, fun. So then there's a movie called Ghost Watch, which I think it is an early 90s British movie.
Ooh.
And I think that when it aired, people really because it aired on TV, I think people really thought it was real. Like they actually
Hmm,
thought it was a real thing. And I
okay.
think it kind of opened is it early 90s or late 80s? I don't know, but it opened up, I think, more for like found footage. I don't know if it was the first ever thing, like it was before Blair Witch. I think it was the first ever thing that came out found footage and people were like, whoa.
Interesting. Okay.
I, I watched it kind of recently for the first time and I loved it. Like I loved Ghost Watch. Like it's
Nice.
just
Okay.
there's also one called Found Footage 3D and it's on Prime
Mhm.
and you can choose to watch the 2D one. I obviously you watch a 2D version, and I love it. It's like a guilty pleasure. They go into all of the stupid things about found footage movies, which I thought was like really clever. They're like, well, why are they still recording? And then they're like, who cares? The audience is stupid. Like they just go through all this stuff. And I think it's so
Yeah.
funny. The acting is pretty damn good, except there's like some CG effects in it, like for the 3D version that I don't really like, but I
Okay.
still like that one. That's like a late at night comfy one for me too. Host, obviously.
Spooky.
Host is perfect. Host is another perfect movie. Horror in the High Desert, Horror in the High Desert, Minerva. There are some that you wouldn't think would be considered found footage that were on a whole bunch of the found footage forums, like What We Do in the Shadows is considered a found footage
True.
movie.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Super fun. And
Mhm.
also ones that had elements of found footage thrown in it. The Descent has some found footage in
Oh,
it.
you're right. Yep.
And also a movie called I See You. Now, it's just recently put on Netflix. You're watching this movie, I See You. I'm not gonna give anything away, but you're like, is this paranormal? Is this a thriller? Is this a killer? You're constantly questioning what you're watching. It's like a regular movie, but then like there's a big chunk right in the middle that's found footage. And you're like,
Okay.
okay, is it one of my most favorite like horror thriller movies? It might be. It's so good. I recommend I
Cool.
see.
I'll check that out. Yeah, I'll add that to the list for sure. Oh, I just have a section that says movies, found footage movies that didn't work for me. There's only 3. I mean, there probably could be more, but I just have 3 written down. You're gonna hate one of them. One of them's Willow Creek. That one just didn't work for me, just because of the acting. Butterfly Kisses didn't work for me. I thought the structure was really, really bad. And then the last one is Dash Cam. I don't know if you've seen Dash Cam yet. I
I've
won't
heard mixed
spoil
things about
anything.
that movie.
Yeah, I won't spoil anything. There's some really gross creative stuff in it that is cool, but the the lead in that movie is really hard to to be with for like 90 minutes, and she's
Okay.
very, very obnoxious and opinionated and extroverted, and it's a lot. And so you'll either be able to look past that and be like, oh, she's funny, just whatever, she's crazy, or you'll just kind of be annoyed with it.
I haven't watched that one. I might watch it. I don't know. We'll see. I forgot to mention the movie Spree, and Spree has what's that guy from the guy from Stranger Things?
Oh, it's Joe Keery.
Yeah, he stars in Spree, and he is phenomenal in this movie.
He's such a good
Amazing.
actor. Yeah.
He's so good. The movie's not bad. It's not bad. The ending of the movie, the very end of the movie, like after the end scene, there's a part at the ending that I actually started tearing up and like crying during just because of the
Oh,
message. But
okay.
it's not because it's sad. It was just like, oh my god, this world. But I would give
Yeah.
Spree. It's more of a fun one, kind of. But then at the end, you're like, whoa. But it's all like there's social commentary, but it's not social commentary to the point where it's annoying. It's social commentary where it's like, yeah, man, this is how the world is.
Yeah, I mean, most of these found footage movies, there's parts that I really don't like, then there's parts that I really do like, but really the only one I seriously love and will pound the table for is Blair Witch. That's just
Mhm.
that was perfect in every single way.
With that, we will leave you on a loving love note to Blair Witch. And to anyone who hasn't seen it, please watch it. And anyone who doesn't like it, you're wrong.
Super wrong.
Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but Blair Witch is a masterpiece. Sorry, but it is.
Ah, it is. We love it so much.
Thank you for watching Replays It All. Today's episode was Side Quest. First ever Side Quest episode with
Yes.
Kevin. Yeah.
Yes.
We dug deep, we explored, we really went for it, man. And I think that this side quest was a success.
I agree.
Yeah.
Dug deep into them woods.
You can find my content and the Not a Strong Start content on our YouTube channel, Not a Strong Start, and on IG and Twitter at Not a Strong Start. You can follow me on Instagram at Marie Plays It All. And Kevin, do your little spiel.
Little spiel. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me on to the first episode of Side Quest. And just talking about found footage, like we've had a lot of pent up opinions and hot takes and passionate thoughts about found footage. And it just feels good to kind of get it somewhere for it to exist and to live. And so just thank you so much for having me on your channel, the Not a Strong Start channel. Love everything that you guys do. All of you are super talented, and it just means a lot. And so, thank you, thank you, thank you,
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, because I wanted
thank
to
you,
also
thank you,
vent
thank you.
about found footage for a while. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
You can find me. Where can you find me? You can find me on Instagram at Watch Horror Films. My YouTube channel is Kevin Ketchie. Post a lot of film locations on there. And then every once in a while, my good buddy Burke and I will record an episode of a horror movie or a show or just griping about life in general on Night of the Comments on Instagram, and that's on YouTube as well. So if you're feeling frisky, if you're feeling any of those things, check me out. I really appreciate it.
If you want to explore more of what Kevin has to say and you want to dig deep,
Yeah.
and you got to check all those things out. And I also forgot, I always forget to say this. I'm like, you can find us on YouTube, Not a Strong Start, and also anywhere you listen to your podcast. I always forget about that. I always forget about
True.
Spotify and stuff. Why?
Me too.
Yeah, so guys, never stop playing, never stop recording, never stop watching found footage, but really never stop recording because you never know when that footage is going to be used to find out how you died. I'm like,
I don't know.